Who is the best non-dual teacher on YouTube? Before we reveal that answer, I want to ask you some questions. Why do you want to know? What are you looking for? Is it the fact that you want to save time in your quest to find the truth, the essence of non-duality, or you've been hoodwinked before with other teachings or religions or practices that just didn't seem to quite work for you? So what is your motivation for wanting to know who the best teacher on YouTube for non-duality is? And obviously, you're probably wondering what's the criteria for this decision of naming the best teacher on YouTube for non-duality. You could look at, strictly from a numbers analytics standpoint, how many followers that YouTube channel has, or how many likes on a particular video. Is there a video that has the most likes on YouTube or the most engagement? Let's see, what other analytics could there be? How many videos the person has made, how many hours of created videos on non-duality. So that's kind of more of the structural, left-brained, analytical side of the analysis. Then you look at the qualitative side, the information and the way it's presented. Who speaks the most eloquently? Who refers to themselves in the third person because, there is no me, essentially. How do they communicate, and what is the setup? Do they have, are they in a room in the video with a bunch of people sitting around listening to them? Is there, is it a big conference? Are they at an event that is really prestigious where they've been given the accolades for being a quality speaker of non-duality? Have they talked about their pedigree, their background, their studies that they've done? If they've gone to other locations in the world and studied from the masters, have they read ancient texts? So these are all things to consider when coming up with the best teacher, the best non-dual teacher on YouTube. And it's a hard one just because, non-duality is, it means not two, and it really is giving you nothing. And so, so you could look at the fruits of a non-dual speaker and what they tell people. Has it made change in the world? But with non-duality, change is essentially irrelevant. So if it were something like, teach a person to fish and I give you fishing tips, the question would be, did the follower of the video go out and fish and catch a bunch of fish? And so by that measurement, you can measure the success of the speaker in whatever category. But with non-duality, there's nothing to change, nothing to be, nothing to become. You are who you are, essentially. What is the nature of non-duality. So having said that, you may be wondering, what's my expertise in choosing who the best non-dual speaker is on YouTube. And so I wanted to narrow this into just YouTube because that's kind of my experience of non-duality. I've read a few texts, but really, there could be speakers outside of this social media platform that people follow, or maybe there's people that go on retreats and see these speakers in person. And so really I'm just focused on YouTube itself and the non-dual speakers that are there here in the stratosphere of YouTube. So with that being said, who is the best teacher of non-duality on YouTube? Well, you guessed it. It's me, Russ Rapp. I'm the best teacher of non-duality on YouTube. And before you click on another video or X out of this one. Let me kind of explain where I'm going with this. So I just want you to, for a quick second, notice your reaction to me saying that myself, Russ Rapp, is the best non-dual teacher on YouTube. Because you could say, okay, well, how could this guy say that? How could he appoint himself? How could he crown himself the king of non-duality? And what gives him the right to do that? Because, you know, you've maybe heard other speakers that speak more eloquently or really get to the heart of the matter better than I do. But really what I wanted to get at in this video is notice your reaction to what I just said. Notice your how you responded to the information that I presented. And you may have thought that, oh, this guy is really arrogant, or he's obviously wrong, or he's joking, or this is just a clickbait video. But that's the key in non-duality when it comes to your personal understanding of non-duality. Non-duality is, in a sense, impersonal and personal, but the personal side of it is you can witness through your reaction. So as a non-dual speaker, you know, if you point to something that is not non-duality, then that's one way to see what non-duality is, because you can't point to it. It isn't something specific. It isn't concrete. In a sense, it's an abstract. It's not even a thought. But when you can't point to anything specific, then the only way to describe non-duality is to say, hey, look at this, and this is not non-duality. This is not that. Because we make assumptions about awareness or consciousness when it comes to non-duality. That's what non-duality is. You know, there's ways to try to define it, but that's just a limiting the definition or the scope of non-duality, because non-duality is what is. And so if you look at your reaction to what I said, and that's kind of the key of unraveling something that doesn't need to be unraveled, but to see where your hang up is, because you may think that, who is this person sitting here talking? What is his real expertise? What is his real background as far as why he can say he's the best non-dual speaker on YouTube? And partly because I'm now speaking about myself in the third person. But if you look at the one thing I wanted to kind of shape this video around is this idea of how societies create change, or a lot of time cultures want to there's a energy that wants to kind of stay the same, reluctance to change, if you will. But usually a lot of times change occurs through this idea that there's a problem. And so something bad happens, or there's an issue that you have to deal with, there's a problem, and there's a reaction to that problem. So essentially how it goes is problem, reaction, solution. And so the first point of this process is to identify a problem. And if there is something that from an outside observer that could say, well, this is a problem, but if the people within that culture or society don't recognize it as a problem, then there is no reaction to have to try to change that issue or that problem. And so as human beings, as we go through a process of change, we identify a problem, we react to it, which essentially creates or it justifies a problem, but essentially reestablish the fact that there is a problem by the reaction that you have to that problem. And then the next step is to find a solution. And so when it comes to spiritual teachings, you know, there's a problem. I have a monkey mind. I can't control my thoughts. I have these negative feelings and emotions, or my life isn't how I expected it to be, or I have this past I want to run away from or get rid of or come to terms with. And so when there's this reaction to a problem, it's basically manifesting the fact that there is a problem. And so in certain practices in spirituality, you know, you can meditate, you can go through all these type of cathartic experiences, whatever program. You can change your diet, you can, do physical activity, you can try to calm the mind, you can, there's all sorts of things you can do to try to fix the problem. But with non-duality, when you notice a reaction from a non-dual perspective, instead of going towards the idea of focusing on the solution, you recognize that there was no problem to begin with, because the problem or the issue when it comes to non-duality is this illusion of separation, this idea that we are a separate self in a world, in time. And so when you have a reaction to any situation, any piece of information, anything coming internally or externally in the moment, instead of trying to fix it with a solution, you recognize that the problem itself is real and unreal. So it is real in a sense, but when you look at the reaction and look at the problem itself, it's always the same problem, no matter what's manifesting in the current moment. No matter what's happening, the problem is always the same. So you can say, in this moment, here's my issue. I'm hung up about this relationship, or my mind keeps continually working, or there's something in the environment that I don't like. The problem of that situation, your reaction to that is the fact that there's this idea of separation that is happening prior to this recognition of the mind of a reaction. And so instead of trying to fix something, go the other way and realize that there is no problem, essentially, and that there is what is, and the grace of God is in every moment, and you just have to ask for it, essentially, or don't ask for it. But usually when there's something that is seen to be a problem, there's something that is the opposite that would essentially neutralize that issue. So whether or not you do anything with it, when you do something with that problem, or that your reaction to that problem, then that becomes yet another solution, which is not the purpose of the concept of non-duality. So I hope that made sense, and I appreciate you sticking with me through this video. And again, peace.